Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Huskers in Enemy Territory. Today, since it's kind of a slow sports day, I decided to do another top 10. This one is going to be for top 10 Nebraska quarterbacks of all time. And here we go. Number 10, Brooke Berringer. Brooke Berringer, he ended up playing a huge role in the 1994 national championship run that Nebraska had. Um, there was a lot of other attributes that he had. He just came in, did his job. When Tommy Frazier ended up having some of the blood clots that kind of plagued him all during his career, Brooke Berringer just came in and played football and helped us get us to the national championship game that year. And I just felt like not having him in my top 10 was probably kind of criminal. Number 9, I decided to put Joe Gantz. 2008 was probably one of his best statistical years, even as a Nebraska quarterback overall. He had 3,500 yards passing and 25 touchdowns in total. It was kind of on par with some of the guys like Sam Bradford and Colt McCoy, apparently. I didn't look up their statistics, but he was a darn good quarterback for some of those Nebraska teams during the Callahan years, which was kind of surprising, honestly, you know. But yeah, so he's number 8. Number 7, I had Eric Crouch. He was a Heisman Trophy winner, one of 3 quarterbacks to have 3,000 yards rushing and 4,000 yards passing. So that's pretty impressive. Ended up getting us to the 2001 national championship game. Basically, I think if if he didn't really have to do everything on his own during that season, it seemed like Nebraska might have been able to beat that Miami team in 2001, but instead we kind of got our butts kicked. But that Miami team was stacked from top to bottom. I think it wasn't Ray Lewis, was it? I'm not sure, but I just remember there being like a ton of guys on that team. I think Ray Lewis was on that team. Ed Reed. Um, God, there were so many good players on that team. Greg Olson. There was just a ton of NFL talent on that team. So I'm not sure if Nebraska, if we had some of our, traditional guys that were coming in during the '94 and '95 season, I'm not sure if we would have been able to beat them. But Eric Crouch was definitely a great quarterback. So I had him at number 7. Number 6, I put Scott Frost, one of the most clutch quarterbacks I think we've ever had. He had over 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards passing. And obviously, he had the one national championship title in 1997 that he beat Tennessee. It was like 42-17, I believe. And that was over Peyton Manning that year. So that was kind of nice because they, everyone was writing off Nebraska during that year. And, when we finally got to the game and beat Tennessee, it was kind of a nice icing on the cake moment for the Cornhuskers during that time. Let's see. Number 5, I had Steve Taylor. I don't know much about him. I had to kind of do a little bit of research. He compiled a 31-6 record, 2-time All Big 8 selection. So, I mean, pretty good. I believe he kind of played in the early 80s or maybe mid 80s with Tom Osborne's teams. So he's the number 5 quarterback on my list. Jerry Tagg, he was one of the first Nebraska quarterbacks to win a national championship, and he did it twice. He was in one of the most famous games of all time versus Oklahoma, I believe in 1971, and we won that game. It was the game of the century during that time, and it's a pretty famous game. I still haven't watched it. I feel like that's kind of a travesty, So maybe as a Husker fan, I need to watch that game. I know my dad has seen that game, so he did say it was a great game. Moving on to number three, I have Turner Gill. Apparently, looking back on that, 1983, the Nebraska offense was like out of this world. He had a record of 33-5, and I believe that he would have had that national championship in 1983 versus Miami if Irving Fryer would have been able to catch that 2-point conversion. Some say that it was like the ballsiest call of all time in college football history by Tom Osborne, going for two on that because they believe that if we would have just went for the tie, and in traditional sense, like, you know, not like today's game where, they had the overtimes and whatnot. A lot of teams, like, even Notre Dame would always go for the tie just to preserve that, like, I mean, it was kind of a blemish, but they would have still, because of the record that Nebraska had, I think they would have awarded at least a split national championship that year. And I can't remember what year it was that Notre Dame got that tie, but I remember it being versus Michigan State. I would have to look at that. And I think they went on to win the national championship in that year. I think it was in the 1960s. But moving on, I have as number two, and it might be, I might need to revamp it, but I do believe that Jamal Lord was, and well, to me, he was one of the best quarterbacks that we've had. I know that uh, statistically speaking and or record wise, he wasn't like one of the best quarterbacks we had, but in my opinion, like pound for pound, he was probably one of the most athletic quarterbacks that Nebraska has ever had. And I believe that if you put Jamal Lord on, the 1994, 1995, or even the 1997 national championship teams, I think that he could have won those national championships. He was just that good of a quarterback as far as athleticism goes. I know I didn't get to watch a lot of his games, but to me, he was kind of the real deal. Obviously, like maybe I could adjust my list a little bit, but and maybe two's a little too high for him, but I had to add him to the list. And then moving on to the number one quarterback, of course, it's going to be Tommy Frazier. As a starter, he was 33-3, went to three national championships in a row. He played against Florida State, Miami, and Florida. He won two national championships in that 3 year span. And honestly, I know I think it was 95, Eddie George won the Heisman, but I still think that overall, because you have to say who's the best college football player, and I believe that was Tommy Frazier at that time. Some of the notables that Tommy Frazier got was in those national championship games. He was the MVP of those games, and he also received all Big Eight honors. So honestly, it might be a little biased because he's just my all-time favorite Cornhusker. But I don't know. this is my list, obviously. You guys can adjust your list as you see fit, but I kind of just wanted to do a top 10 video again because it was a slow sports day, and it's always fun to do these. I think it just kind of garners up debates on YouTube and even on Twitter and Facebook that I post my videos on. So I hope you guys debate with me on YouTube and Twitter, and I hope to see you guys soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notifications. And as always, go Big Red.